Have you ever noticed how a conversation can end, but your mind refuses to let it go? You're already home. The moment is over. The words were spoken. And yet, your brain presses replay. You hear your own voice again. You imagine a different reply. You cringe. You pause. You analyze. You tell yourself, it's not a big deal, but your mind doesn't listen. Why do some people replay conversations in their head for hours, sometimes days, while others forget them instantly? This isn't random. This isn't weakness. And it's not just overthinking. This is psychology. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your mind the same way again. Let's start with something uncomfortable but honest. People who replay conversations don't do it because they're insecure. They do it because their brain is built differently, more aware, more sensitive, more reflective. Your mind doesn't just experience moments, it records them, especially emotional ones, especially social ones, especially the moments where something felt slightly off. That's where the replay begins. The human brain is obsessed with closure, not logical closure, emotional closure. If something feels unfinished, unclear, or emotionally confusing, your brain treats it like an open tab, and it keeps running in the background. When a conversation ends without certainty, no clear reaction, no obvious outcome, no emotional resolution, your brain goes into analysis mode. Psychology calls this the zygarnic effect. Unfinished experiences stick in the mind longer than finished ones. That's why you don't replay boring conversations. You replay awkward moments, tense pauses, mixed signals, conversations where you didn't feel fully understood. You track your behavior in real time. It's not trying to torture you, it's trying to complete the emotional loop. People who replay conversations often live inside their own head, not in a narcissistic way, in a reflective way. You observe yourself while you're speaking. You notice how you sound. You notice how others react. Most people just talk. You observe yourself talking. That creates awareness, but it also creates memory. Because the more attention you give to a moment, the deeper it gets stored. So later, your brain pulls it back up, not to shame you, but to evaluate you. Did I represent myself correctly? Did I sound confident? Did I stay true to myself? This is the mind of someone who cares about alignment. But alignment comes at a cost. Your brain still thinks it's protecting you. Thousands of years ago, being socially rejected was dangerous. Being misunderstood meant isolation. Isolation meant death. So your brain evolved to treat social interactions as survival data. When a conversation feels risky, your brain flags it. Later, it replays it. This is called threat rehearsal. Your mind reviews. What went wrong? What could go wrong? How to avoid it next time. It's the same reason you replay embarrassing moments. Your brain believes, if I analyze this enough, I can prevent pain. The problem? Social situations aren't predictable, so the replay never reaches a conclusion. Here's something rarely said out loud. People who replay conversations are often deeply empathetic. You don't just care about what you meant, you care about how it landed. You imagine how they might have felt, how your words sounded to them, whether you hurt them unintentionally. This is cognitive empathy, the ability to mentally simulate another person's emotional experience. Your brain runs scenarios. What if they took it the wrong way? What if I embarrassed them? What if I hurt them without realizing? That's why your replay isn't just about you, it's about them. You care deeply about how you affect others. You expect a lot from yourself, emotionally, socially, morally. You replay conversations because your inner standard is strict. Psychology calls this internalized evaluation. You don't need feedback. You already gave it to yourself. You notice when you were too quiet, when you talked too much, when you didn't speak up, when you revealed too much. Your mind says, you should have done better. Not because you failed, but because you expect excellence from yourself. This is common in people who were praised for being mature, thoughtful, or responsible early in life. You learn to self-correct constantly, and now your mind never stops correcting. When you replay conversations, you don't just remember them, you rewrite them. You imagine better responses, smarter timing, witty comebacks, calmer reactions. Psychology calls this counterfactual thinking. Your brain creates what-if versions of reality, and then judges the real one against the imaginary one. This is where regret forms. Tasks, distractions, noise. Your brain forgets one thing. That imaginary version had no pressure, no emotion, no uncertainty. Reality did. Ever noticed how replaying gets worse at night? That's not coincidence. During the day, your brain is busy. At night, your nervous system finally slows down, and the unresolved emotional data surfaces. Psychology links this to default mode network activity, the part of the brain that activates during rest and self-reflection. Your mind turns inward. That's why the same conversation feels manageable during the day and overwhelming at 2 a.m. It's not that the problem got bigger. Your mind just got quieter. This part is subtle but powerful. If you grew up feeling unheard, misinterpreted, emotionally dismissed, your brain learned to double-check communication. You became careful with words, sensitive to reactions, alert to misunderstandings. So after conversations, your mind asks, did they really get me? Did I explain myself clearly? Did I hide too much of who I am? That depth creates insight, not because of anxiety, but because of history. Surface-level thinkers move on quickly. Deep thinkers linger. You reflect, you process, you integrate. Your brain doesn't skim life, it reads between the lines. But without balance, it creates loops. Insight turns into obsession. Reflection turns into rumination. The difference isn't intelligence, it's emotional boundaries. There's a point where replay stops being useful, when it turns into self-blame, shame spirals, harsh inner dialogue, catastrophic assumptions. At that point, your mind is no longer analyzing, it's attacking. Psychology calls this maladaptive rumination. The moment your inner voice becomes cruel, reflection has crossed into self-harm, and your brain needs a new response. So what's the solution? Not distraction, not forcing yourself to stop thinking, but understanding what your mind actually wants. Most of the time, replaying conversations is your brain asking for reassurance. Reassurance that you're still accepted. You didn't mess everything up. One moment doesn't define you. Closure doesn't come from perfect answers. It comes from self-compassion, from saying, I did my best with what I knew. I didn't intend harm. I'm allowed to be human. The moment you replace judgment with understanding, the replay softens. Here's the truth. People who replay conversations are often emotionally intelligent, highly perceptive, deeply empathetic, self-aware. But those strengths need limits. You don't need to relive every moment to grow. Sometimes growth comes from letting go. So next time your mind replays a conversation, don't fight it. Ask it one question. Is this helping me or hurting me? And if it's hurting, you're allowed to close the tab. If this felt like someone was describing your mind, you're not alone. Subscribe for more psychology that explains the thoughts you never learned how to explain. And remember, your mind replays conversations not because you're broken, but because you care.